My name is Isla, and I'm 29 years old. As a nurse, working 60-hour weeks buying my first house was my proudest achievement. I opened my home to my sister Amanda and her husband Jake, letting them live rent-free while they saved for their own place. Despite my tight budget, I always prioritized family. So when I discovered everyone was going to Hawaii for Christmas without me because Amanda requested my exclusion, I was devastated. Before I tell you how I discovered their betrayal, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt blindsided by family. Family has always been my cornerstone. Growing up in a modest suburb outside Portland, my parents Robert and Maria raised us to believe that blood ties were unbreakable. Our home wasn't fancy, but it was filled with love and the understanding that we would always support each other. This belief guided me through my childhood and shaped my adult decisions. I pursued nursing with single-minded determination, graduating near the top of my class 4 years ago. The work is challenging but fulfilling. I specialize in pediatric care at Portland Memorial, often working night shifts and picking up extra hours whenever possible. My colleagues joke that I practically live at the hospital, but those extra shifts helped me save enough for a down payment on my small 3-bedroom ranch house in a quiet neighborhood. Financial independence didn't come easily. Student loans consumed a significant portion of my monthly income, and the mortgage stretched my budget thin. I cut corners wherever possible, shopping at discount stores, driving my 10-year-old Honda that constantly needed repairs, and rarely treating myself to anything beyond the occasional coffee splurge. But I was proud of what I'd accomplished on my own, even if it meant watching every penny. Amanda is 3 years younger than me, and our relationship has always been complicated. As children, we were inseparable despite our personality differences. I was the responsible, cautious one, while Amanda was spontaneous and social. I protected her from bullies and helped with her homework, and she dragged me on adventures I would never have experienced otherwise. As we grew older, the dynamics shifted. Amanda flourished socially in high school while I focused on academics and worked part-time jobs. She attended community college briefly before dropping out to pursue various interests that never seemed to stick. Our parents never pressured her the way they did. Me, accepting her free-spirited approach to life with an indulgence they never showed toward my occasional missteps. When Amanda met Jake at a friend's wedding 3 years ago, I was genuinely happy for her. He seemed charming and ambitious, working in real estate with plans to start his own agency someday. Their whirlwind romance culminated in a wedding after only 8 months of dating. Our parents spent a considerable amount on the ceremony despite their modest retirement savings, something that worried me but which I never mentioned. The first cracks in Jake's perfect image appeared shortly after the wedding. His real estate career consisted more of talk than actual sales, and his promised agency remained perpetually just around the corner. Amanda quit her receptionist job to focus on supporting Jake's business, which meant neither of them had a steady income. 2 months after their honeymoon, Amanda called me in tears. They had been evicted from their apartment after falling behind on rent. Without hesitation, I offered my spare bedroom as a temporary solution. The plan was clear: they would stay for 6 months maximum, using the time to save money and get back on their feet. "This means everything to us, Isla," Amanda had said, hugging me tightly. "We'll be out before you know it, and we'll definitely contribute to groceries and utilities." That was 14 months ago. The 6-month deadline came and went without mention. Grocery contributions materialized occasionally, usually after gentle reminders. Jake's big real estate break remained elusive, though he always had stories about deals that fell through at the last minute. Amanda picked up occasional part-time work, but never anything substantial enough to build savings. Meanwhile, I adjusted my life to accommodate them. I gave them privacy when they wanted it cleaned up their messes more often than I should have, and never complained when they monopolized the living room for entire weekends. I even soundproofed my room at my own expense, so their late-night conversations wouldn't disturb my sleep before night shifts. Throughout this arrangement, our parents remained firmly in Amanda's corner. When I carefully mentioned to Mom that the living situation was becoming prolonged, she immediately defended my sister. "They're just getting started in life, Isla. You're so blessed with your stable job and house. Sharing your blessings with your sister is what family does." I swallowed my frustration and accepted this as truth. After all, family supports family. Our annual Christmas vacation was a tradition that started when Amanda and I were teenagers. Nothing extravagant, usually a road trip to visit relatives in neighboring states, or a few days at a budget-friendly destination within driving distance. We all contributed what we could, with parents covering the bulk of expenses. This year, Dad announced during our monthly family dinner that they had been saving for something special. "We're thinking Hawaii this Christmas," he said, his eyes twinkling with excitement. "A proper vacation for once. We deserve it." Mom nodded enthusiastically. "We've been putting aside a little each month. It's time we did something memorable as a family." My heart raced with excitement. Hawaii, I'd never been further than Colorado. I immediately started calculating how many extra shifts I would need to afford my portion of such a trip. "That sounds amazing," I said, already imagining white sand beaches and clear blue water. "I can pick up some overtime to make it work." Amanda clapped her hands excitedly. "Jake and I are totally in. We've always wanted to go to Hawaii." I wondered briefly how they planned to afford it, but assumed they had been saving too. Maybe this expensive vacation was the motivation they needed to get serious about their finances. In the weeks that followed, I picked up every available extra shift, sometimes working 70 hours a week. I started researching Hawaii, looking at must-see attractions, and creating a modest budget for the trip. Whenever I tried to discuss specific plans with my parents, they seemed oddly evasive, changing the subject or giving vague answers about dates and accommodations. "We're still finalizing details," Mom would say. "Don't worry about it right now." I attributed their vagueness to being busy and continued my preparations, excited about spending quality time with my family in paradise. Little did I know they were planning a very different kind of holiday. It was a Wednesday evening in late October when my world shifted. I had just finished a 12-hour night shift and was exhausted, looking forward to a hot shower and sleep. As I unlocked my front door, I could hear Amanda's voice coming from the kitchen. She was talking on the phone, her tone animated and excited. I was about to call out a greeting when I heard her say, "The oceanfront villa has 4 bedrooms, so Mom and Dad will take the master. You and I can have the second largest, and Aunt Linda and Uncle Paul can have the third. The fourth is smaller but perfect for Cousin Sophie." I paused, confused. That was a lot of bedrooms, but I hadn't heard my name mentioned. Maybe she was still listing people and would get to me next. "The flight arrives in Honolulu at 2 p.m. on December 23rd, Amanda continued. "Dad already booked the rental cars. We'll need 2 with all 8 of us plus luggage." 8 people. I mentally counted Mom, Dad, Amanda, Jake, Aunt Linda, Uncle Paul, Cousin Sophie. That was 7. Who was the 8th? A cold feeling settled in my stomach as I realized I might not be included in this count. Instead of announcing my presence, I quietly set down my bag and moved closer to the kitchen doorway, listening more carefully. "No, she doesn't know yet," Amanda said, her voice dropping slightly. "Mom and Dad are supposed to tell her this weekend. They're waiting for the right time." My heart began pounding in my ears. She was talking about me. I was the one who didn't know something. "It's just," Amanda sighed dramatically, "this is our first Christmas as a married couple without financial stress. We deserve some peace without Isla's constant money worries bringing everyone down. You know how she gets always talking about bills and expenses. It would ruin the whole vibe of the trip." I heard movement, and then Jake's voice joined the conversation. "Is that your mom? Tell her we're still figuring out the activities. I want to book that private sunset cruise." "Mom wants to know if we've decided on excursions," Amanda relayed before continuing. "Jake and I are thinking about the sunset cruise for sure, and maybe the helicopter tour if we can convince Dad it's worth it." There was a pause while she listened to the person on the other end of the call. "I know, right? It's going to be amazing," she gushed. "And honestly, it's a relief not having to deal with Isla's budget constraints. I convinced Mom and Dad that she's just too negative and always complaining about money. Nobody wants that energy on a dream vacation." Jake laughed, a sound that now seemed cruel to my ears. "Plus, she'd probably just spend the whole time calling the hospital to check on her patients. Some people just don't know how to relax and enjoy life." "Exactly," Amanda agreed. "And it's not like she can't afford to do something else for Christmas. She has that whole house to herself most of the time anyway. One holiday without her constant judgment won't kill anyone." I backed away from the doorway, my legs shaky beneath me. Making it to my bedroom without being detected, I closed the door silently and sat on the edge of my bed, still in my scrubs. My family was planning a Christmas vacation to Hawaii, without me, at my sister's request. The sister who was living rent-free in my home. The betrayal cut so deeply I could barely breathe. Tears welled up, but I fought them back. I needed to think clearly. Perhaps I had misunderstood or missed some critical context. But Amanda's words echoed in my mind. She doesn't know yet. Too negative. Always complaining about money. I unlocked my phone with trembling fingers and checked my recent text exchanges with my parents. Looking at them with new eyes, I could see the careful avoidance. Dad asking about my December work schedule, just curious. Mom mentioning Christmas but never the trip specifically. Questions I'd asked about Hawaii planning that received deflective responses. The reality was undeniable. My family had deliberately excluded me from our Christmas vacation, and my sister, the person benefiting most from my generosity, had orchestrated it. I lay awake all night staring at the ceiling, listening to Amanda and Jake laughing in the living room, the sound now painful to my ears. By morning, the shock had hardened into something else entirely. I had decisions to make. Sleep evaded me entirely that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Amanda's words. We deserve some peace without Isla's constant money worries bringing everyone down. The casual cruelty of it made my chest ache. As dawn broke, I scrolled through photos on my phone. Memories of all I had sacrificed for my sister. The vacation I canceled last year because Amanda needed help with rent before moving in with me. The designer bag I'd saved for but ultimately used the money to buy groceries when Jake and Amanda were between paychecks again. The countless small kindnesses that apparently meant nothing. I pulled up my text messages with my parents and reread them with fresh understanding. Me, so excited about Hawaii. Should I look at flights now or are we booking together? Mom, no need to worry about that right now, honey. We're handling the arrangements. Me. What island are we staying on? I want to research things to do. Dad, still figuring out the details. We'll let everyone know soon. Me. Budget question. Can I start making payments to you for my portion of the trip? Mom. Let's talk about that later. Focus on your work for now. Their evasiveness wasn't busyness, it was deliberate avoidance. I felt sick. By 7 a.m., I knew I needed answers directly from my parents before confronting Amanda. I called my mother, my heart pounding as the phone rang. Isla, is everything okay? You're calling so early, Mom answered, concern in her voice. I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. The Hawaii trip for Christmas, who exactly is going? The long pause told me everything before she even spoke. Oh, honey, she finally said, discomfort evident in her tone. We were going to talk to you about that this weekend. It's just... the arrangements got complicated. Complicated how? I pressed, gripping the phone tighter. Well, we could only afford a certain number of people, and Amanda and Jake are still getting established, so we're helping them with their portion, she explained awkwardly. So you're paying for Amanda and Jake to go, but I'm not invited? My voice cracked slightly. It's not that you're not invited exactly, Mom hedged. We just thought since you're so busy with work and always careful with money that you might not want to spend so much on a vacation right now. I heard movement on the line, and then my father's voice came through. Isla, don't make this into a bigger deal than it is. We know you're responsible with your finances, and this trip is pretty extravagant. Amanda and Jake could use a break. They've had a rough year trying to get their footing. The irony was staggering. A rough year they've spent living rent-free in my house, I pointed out. That's different, Dad dismissed. Family helps family. You have a stable job and a house. They're still finding their way. So, family helps family except when it comes to including me in the family Christmas vacation. Now you're just being dramatic, Dad said, his tone hardening. We thought you'd understand. It's important for family harmony sometimes. Family harmony, I repeated, incredulous. What about my feelings I've been picking up extra shifts for weeks to save for this trip that apparently I was never going to be part of? Isla, please, Mom interjected. We didn't mean to hurt you. It's just one Christmas. Maybe next year we can do something everyone can join. I took a deep breath. Who made the final decision about this? Whose idea was it originally that I shouldn't come? Another telling silence. It wasn't like that, Mom finally said. We all discussed what would work best. Was it Amanda? I asked directly. Did Amanda suggest I shouldn't be included? She might have mentioned some concerns, Dad admitted reluctantly. But we made the decision as parents. What concerns exactly? Just that you work so much and are always worried about expenses. She thought you might not enjoy yourself having to spend so much money. The same words Amanda had used on the phone. My parents had bought her justification completely. I need some time to process this, I said finally. I have to go to work. Isla, please try to understand, Mom pleaded. I understand perfectly, I replied and ended the call. I got ready for my shift, mechanically leaving the house before Amanda and Jake woke up. I couldn't face them yet, not until I figured out what to do with this betrayal burning inside me. The hospital was usually my sanctuary, the place where I could focus entirely on others and forget my own problems. Not today. I moved through my shift in a fog checking vitals and administering medications with muscle memory rather than presence. During my lunch break, I sat alone in the staff room staring at my untouched sandwich when Jasmine, another nurse, and one of my closest friends sat down beside me. Okay, what's going on with you? You look like someone ran over your dog and then backed up to make sure they finished the job. She said, her directness one of the qualities I most appreciated about her. The story spilled out of me in a rush, my generosity toward Amanda and Jake. The Hawaii trip, I thought I was part of the devastating phone conversation I'd overheard, and this morning's confirmation from my parents. Jasmine's expression shifted from concern to disbelief to outrage as I spoke. Let me get this straight, she said when I finished. Your sister and her husband have been living in your house rent-free for over a year, and they convinced your parents to exclude you from the family Christmas vacation because you're too negative about money. That's the gist of it, I confirmed, pushing my sandwich away. And now they're getting a free vacation to Hawaii while continuing to live in your house for free. I nodded, the absurdity of the situation hitting me anew. Jasmine leaned forward, her eyes intense. Isla, I love you, but you're being a doormat. These people are taking advantage of you in the worst way. What are you going to do about it? I don't know, I admitted. They're my family. Family doesn't treat family like this, Jasmine countered. My question stands. What are you going to do? Throughout the rest of my shift, Jasmine's question echoed in my mind. What was I going to do? My phone showed 3 texts from Amanda. Casual messages about dinner plans and borrowing my car tomorrow casual, as if she hadn't betrayed me in the most fundamental way. I didn't respond to any of them. When I arrived home that evening, Amanda was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed. You've been ignoring my texts all day, she said accusingly. And you left without saying goodbye this morning. What's your problem? The audacity of her question after what I'd discovered was breathtaking. I set down my bag, carefully buying time to control my emotions. I spoke with Mom and Dad this morning, I said finally, my voice deliberately calm. Amanda's expression flickered briefly before settling into feigned confusion. Okay, and about the Hawaii trip, the one I'm not invited to. Her shoulders slumped slightly, but she recovered quickly, shifting to defensiveness. Oh, they told you about that. Look, it's not personal. We just thought... I know exactly what you thought. I cut her off. I heard you on the phone yesterday. Every word of your conversation with Mom, about how I'm too negative and always complaining about money, about how you deserve a peaceful Christmas without me bringing everyone down. Amanda's eyes widened and color drained from her face. You were eavesdropping on me. I came home from my shift and heard you in the kitchen, planning a vacation I thought I was part of, explicitly celebrating my exclusion from it. Jake entered the kitchen, then immediately sensing the tension. What's going on? She knows about Hawaii, Amanda told him, her voice tight. She was spying on my phone conversation. I wasn't spying, I corrected. I overheard you in my own house, the house you live in rent-free. Jake stepped forward, putting an arm around Amanda protectively. You're being dramatic about this. It's just a vacation. It's not just a vacation, I shot back. It's a family tradition I've been excluded from while you two are getting financial help from my parents to go. We're not as financially secure as you, Amanda argued. You have this whole house and a stable career. We're still trying to build our lives. building your lives by living here for free for 14 months. That was supposed to be a 6-month arrangement. You haven't even looked for your own place." "The market is tough right now," Jake said dismissively. "We're being smart by saving money." "Saving money for what?" I challenged. "Hawaiian vacations you can't afford." "See, this is exactly what we were talking about," Amanda said, throwing up her hands. "You're obsessed with money. Everything comes down to dollars and cents with you. It would ruin the whole vacation." The injustice of her statement left me momentarily speechless. "I work 60 to 70 hours a week to afford this house that you live in for free," I finally managed. "I'm careful with money because I have to be, because I have actual responsibilities." "You don't have a life outside work," Amanda countered cruelly. "You don't have a partner, you barely have friends. What would you even do in Hawaii besides calculate the cost of every meal and activity?" "Amanda," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Do you hear yourself? You're justifying excluding me from a family vacation while living in my house? Do you understand how twisted that is?" "We deserve this break," Jake interjected. "Amanda's been stressed trying to help me get my business off the ground. We need this vacation more than you do." I stared at him truly, seeing the entitlement for the first time. "You deserve a break from what exactly?" "From the stress of not paying rent, from the hardship of having someone else cover your utilities and groceries." "If you make this an issue with Mom and Dad, you'll ruin Christmas for everyone," Amanda warned. "They've been planning this for months. Don't be selfish." I'm being selfish. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I realized how fundamentally broken my relationship with my sister had become. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a thoughtless mistake. This was a deliberate choice to use me while excluding me, to take my generosity while ridiculing me behind my back. "I need some space," I said, finally turning toward my room. "We'll talk about this when I can think clearly." "There's nothing to talk about," Amanda called after me. "You need to accept that sometimes things aren't about you, Isla." I closed my bedroom door, leaned against it, and finally allowed the tears to come. In the safety of my room, I faced a painful truth: the sister I loved and the family I thought I had existed only in my mind. The reality was something far different and far more painful. I spent that weekend at Jasmine's apartment, needing physical distance from Amanda and Jake to think clearly. Jasmine offered her spare room without hesitation, adding, "Stay as long as you need. I've been wanting a roommate who actually cleans up after herself." Those 2 days were a lifeline. Without Amanda and Jake's constant presence, I could process my emotions without interruption. Jasmine provided both sympathy and straight talk in equal measure, never letting me wallow but acknowledging the depth of the betrayal. "Family dynamics are complicated," she said as we shared takeout on her living room floor Saturday night. "But there's a difference between complicated and toxic. Your sister is using you financially while actively working to exclude you from family events. That's not complicated, it's exploitation." "I've always looked out for her," I said, pushing noodles around my container. "Since we were kids. It's hard to turn that off." "Looking out for someone doesn't mean letting them walk all over you," Jasmine pointed out. "You can love your sister without being her doormat." "So what do I do?" "You need to set boundaries, clear, firm boundaries." We spent hours discussing options. Jasmine, whose brother had gone through a similar phase of entitlement after college, shared strategies that had worked for her family. We researched tenant laws in our state, even though no formal rental agreement existed between Amanda, Jake, and me. By Sunday evening, I had a plan and the courage to implement it. Whatever happened next, I would stand up for myself. My family might not like the new boundaries, but they were long overdue. I returned home Sunday night to find Amanda and Jake watching a movie in my living room, acting as if our confrontation had never happened. They barely looked up when I entered, Jake nodding vaguely in my direction before returning his attention to the screen. "We need to talk," I said, standing in front of the TV. "All of us. Now." Jake sighed dramatically and paused the movie. "We were kind of in the middle of something here." "This won't wait," I said firmly. "It's about your living situation." That got their attention. Amanda sat up straighter, wariness creeping into her expression. "What about our living situation?" she asked. "It's changing." I said simply, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "I've been more than generous letting you live here rent-free for 14 months. That arrangement is ending. You have 30 days to find new accommodation." The shock on their faces might have been comical under different circumstances. "You can't be serious," Amanda said after a moment of stunned silence. "I've never been more serious," I replied. "This isn't a spontaneous decision. I've thought about it carefully." "This is because of the Hawaii trip, isn't it?" Jake accused. "You're being petty and vindictive." "The Hawaii situation opened my eyes to the reality of our relationship," I acknowledged. "But this is about more than that. It's about respect, reciprocity, and boundaries, things that have been missing for a long time." "Where are we supposed to go with only 30 days' notice?" Amanda demanded, her voice rising. "We don't have savings for a deposit and first month's rent somewhere else." The irony of this statement after 14 months of not paying rent was staggering, but I kept my composure. "That's not my responsibility," I said. "You've had over a year of living expenses free to save money. How you've managed those savings is your business." "We'll call Mom and Dad," Amanda threatened. "They won't stand for this. You're adults, not children needing parental intervention, but inform whoever you want. My decision stands." Jake stood up, trying to use his height to intimidate me. "You can't legally kick us out like this. We have rights as tenants." I'd anticipated this argument. "I consulted with a legal advisor. Since we have no formal rental agreement and you've never paid rent, you're legally considered lodgers, not tenants in this state. 30 days' notice is more than legally required. I'm being generous." This wasn't entirely accurate. I'd only researched online, not consulted a lawyer, but they didn't need to know that. "Can we at least have until after Christmas?" Amanda pleaded, changing tactics. "It's almost November already. Moving during the holidays would be so stressful." "The stress of moving during the holidays didn't concern you when you were planning your Hawaiian vacation without me," I pointed out. 30 days from today. I'll give you formal written notice tomorrow." "This is going to destroy the family," Amanda said, tears forming. "Mom and Dad will be devastated." "I'm not destroying anything," I replied calmly. "I'm setting healthy boundaries. How everyone responds to those boundaries is their choice." I turned and walked to my bedroom, ignoring Amanda's calls for me to come back and discuss further. There was nothing more to discuss. For the first time in my adult life, I had prioritized my own well-being over Amanda's comfort, and though the conversation had been difficult, I felt lighter than I had in months. As expected, my phone started ringing within the hour. Amanda had wasted no time calling our parents. I silenced it after the third call, sending a single text to my mother. "I need some space right now. I'll talk when I'm ready." Then I turned off my phone completely, took a long shower, and slept better than I had in weeks. The fallout was swift and intense. By the next morning, I had 17 missed calls from my parents, 5 from Amanda, 3 from Aunt Linda, and even 1 from Cousin Sophie. My message inbox was equally flooded, ranging from my mother's concerned, "Please, call us immediately, we need to talk about this," to my father's more direct, "You're overreacting and need to reconsider this decision immediately." I read each message but responded to none of them. Instead, I typed up a formal notice to vacate, printed 2 copies, and left 1 on the kitchen counter for Amanda and Jake before leaving for my shift. At work, I informed my supervisor about my personal situation, asking for extra shifts to keep me occupied during what would likely be a tense month ahead. She was understanding and supportive, adjusting the schedule to accommodate my request. "Family drama during the holidays," she said sympathetically. "Tale as old as time. Take all the overtime you want. We're always short-staffed this time of year anyway." I had just finished my shift when my parents appeared in the hospital lobby, their expressions a mix of concern and determination. I had expected this ambush, though not quite so soon. "We've been trying to reach you all day," Mom said, stepping forward to hug me. I accepted the embrace but kept it brief. "I'm not ignoring you. I'm working and processing. There's a difference." "Let's go somewhere and talk," Dad suggested. "The coffee shop across the street is still open." I was exhausted after a 12-hour shift, but knew postponing this conversation would only prolong the tension. "Fine, but I can only stay for 30 minutes. I need sleep before tomorrow's shift." The coffee shop was nearly empty at that late hour. We sat in a corner booth, my parents across from me, untouched coffees creating a barrier between us. "Amanda called us completely distraught," Mom began. She says you're kicking them out because of the Hawaii trip. Is that true? I'm ending a temporary arrangement that has extended far beyond its original timeline, I corrected. The Hawaii situation simply made me realize how one-sided our relationship has become. They're family, Dad emphasized, as if that explained everything. Family supports each other through difficult times. Family should also respect each other, I countered. Amanda and Jake have been living in my home for 14 months without contributing meaningfully to expenses. Meanwhile, they've been mocking my financial caution behind my back and actively working to exclude me from family events. That's not family support, that's exploitation. They're still getting established, Mom defended. Jake's real estate career takes time to build. It's been 2 years, I pointed out. And in that time, he's made exactly 3 sales, according to Amanda. That's not building a career, that's avoiding reality. You're being harsh, Dad said. They're trying their best. Are they? Because from where I stand, they're quite comfortable letting me subsidize their lifestyle while they plan vacations they can't afford. About the Hawaii trip, Mom said, shifting uncomfortably. We should have been more upfront with you. That was our mistake. Yes, you should have been, I agreed. But the greater issue is that you allowed Amanda to convince you I shouldn't be included because I'm too negative about money. After everything I've done for her, that betrayal cuts deep. She didn't mean it like that, Mom insisted. She was just concerned that you work so hard and are so careful with money the trip might be stressful for you. That's not her decision to make, nor yours. It was my choice whether to spend my money on a family vacation, and that choice was taken from me. We've already booked everything, Dad said, frustration evident in his tone. The villa, the flights, the activities. It's all paid for. You're destroying family harmony over one vacation. Again, I'm not destroying anything. I'm responding to a pattern of disrespect that culminated in my exclusion from a family tradition. What if we try to add you to the bookings? Mom suggested desperately. Would that solve this? This isn't about the trip anymore, I explained, fatigue washing over me. It's about recognizing that my relationship with Amanda has become unhealthy. She and Jake need to stand on their own feet, and I need to stop enabling their dependency. So you're putting them out on the street for Christmas? Dad asked accusingly. They have 30 days to find a new place. That's more than reasonable. And they have options. They could stay with you with Jake's parents, with friends, or find their own apartment like other adults their age. We don't have space in our house, Mom said quickly. Your old bedroom is my craft room now, and the guest room is too small for 2 people. I raised an eyebrow. So you expect me to house them indefinitely, but you're unwilling to offer them even temporary accommodation. They exchanged uncomfortable glances. It's different, Dad finally said. Your house is bigger. That I pay for entirely on my own, I reminded them. Did you know they haven't contributed to groceries in over 2 months? That Jake used my car last week and returned it with an empty gas tank that Amanda borrowed $300 in August for emergency dental work that miraculously coincided with the release of the new iPhone. My parents looked surprised. Clearly, Amanda had been sharing a different narrative with them. We didn't know about all that, Mom admitted. Because you only hear Amanda's side of the story. You've always favored her, given her the benefit of the doubt that I never received. That's not true, Dad protested. It is true, and we all know it. Amanda makes a mistake, and it's brushed aside. I work myself to exhaustion to achieve independence, and I'm criticized for being too focused on money. The double standard has always been there. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We never meant to make you feel that way. Intention doesn't change impact, I said, rising from the table. I need to go home and sleep. I've made my decision about Amanda and Jake's living situation, and it stands. 30 days is generous and fair. How you all choose to respond to these new boundaries is up to you. This will change things in the family, Dad warned. Things already changed when you all decided to exclude me from Christmas. I'm just acknowledging that reality. I left them sitting in the coffee shop, my heart heavy but my resolve firm. The next few weeks would be difficult but necessary for my own well-being. The family dynamic had been broken for longer than I'd been willing to admit. I was simply refusing to pretend anymore. My phone began ringing again before I even reached my car. This time I turned it off without checking the caller ID. Whatever new arguments or emotional appeals awaited me could wait until after I'd rested. The following weeks were a study in passive-aggressive behavior. Amanda and Jake remained in my house, but their attitude transformed from entitled comfort to sullen resentment. They made sure I knew exactly how inconvenienced they were by my sudden decision leaving cabinet doors open, playing music loudly when I was trying to sleep, and engaging in whispered arguments that mysteriously fell silent whenever I entered a room. Their search for new housing appeared half-hearted at best. When I asked about their progress 2 weeks into the notice period, Amanda rolled her eyes dramatically. "We're looking okay, but it's not easy finding a decent place on short notice. Not everyone has a nurse's salary." I chose not to point out that many people with far less income than Jake's theoretical real estate earnings managed to house themselves successfully. Instead, I simply reminded her of the deadline and walked away. Meanwhile, my parents had enlisted the extended family in their campaign to change my mind. Aunt Linda called to express her concern about the family fracture during the blessed holiday season. Uncle Paul texted lengthy paragraphs about the importance of forgiveness. Even distant relatives I barely spoke to sent messages expressing disappointment in my harsh treatment of my struggling sister. It became clear that Amanda and my parents had shared a heavily edited version of events with the family, casting me as the villain who was heartlessly evicting my sister at Christmas out of petty jealousy over a vacation. The narrative was so twisted that I hardly recognized the situation they described. I stopped answering calls from extended family members after the third lecture about Christmas spirit and family obligations. My parents continued their daily attempts at contact, alternating between guilt trips and bargaining. I responded only to confirm that I was safe and working, keeping all other communication minimal. The holiday season, normally my favorite time of year, approached under this cloud of tension. The hospital was decorated with lights and garlands, but I felt disconnected from the usual joy. Jasmine noticed my melancholy during our shared lunch break 20 days into the notice period. "How's Operation Boundaries going?" she asked, sliding a homemade cookie toward me as a peace offering. "About as well as expected," I sighed. My entire family thinks I'm Scrooge and the Grinch combined. Amanda and Jake are playing the victims while doing absolutely nothing to find a new place. And my parents call daily to remind me that I'm destroying Christmas. But you're standing firm. Surprisingly, yes. The more they push, the more certain I am that this is necessary. Jasmine nodded approvingly. Good. And for what it's worth, you're welcome to spend Christmas with my family. My mom always cooks enough for an army, and my dad's eggnog is legendary. No pressure, but the invitation is there. Her kindness brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Thank you. I might take you up on that. That evening, I arrived home to find an unexpected email from my cousin Sophie, the only family member who hadn't joined the chorus of disapproval. "Hey, Isla," she wrote. "I've been hearing a lot of family drama from various sources, but wanted to check in with you directly. Sounds like a tough situation. I'm around if you want to talk to someone who isn't taking sides before understanding both perspectives. Love you either way." Sophie had always been the family peacemaker, thoughtful and fair-minded. I called her immediately grateful for her balanced approach. Our conversation lasted over an hour, during which I shared the full story without omitting my own hurt and anger. Sophie listened without judgment, asking clarifying questions but offering no platitudes or easy solutions. "That's rough," she said when I finished. "For what it's worth, the version circulating in the family is quite different. According to Aunt Maria, you're punishing Amanda for a simple miscommunication about vacation planning." I laughed without humor. A 14-month rent-free living arrangement and deliberate exclusion from a family tradition hardly qualifies as a simple miscommunication. "I figured there was more to it," Sophie agreed. "Family dynamics are rarely simple, especially in our family." "Do you think I'm overreacting?" I asked, suddenly needing an honest outside perspective. Sophie considered this carefully before answering. "No. I think you've been underreacting for a very long time, and now that you're finally setting boundaries, everyone is shocked by the change. That doesn't make you wrong, it makes them uncomfortable with the new status quo." Her validation meant more than I could express. Before hanging up, Sophie surprised me with an invitation. "I'm not going to Hawaii either," she said. "I couldn't afford it with my graduate school expenses. If you want, we could have our own little Christmas gathering. Nothing fancy, just good food and better company." "I'd like that," I said, feeling a small spark of holiday spirit for the first time in weeks. The conversation with Sophie and subsequent text exchanges with her mother, my Aunt Teresa, who reached out after hearing Sophie's side of the story, provided unexpected support during the final days of the notice period. Not everyone in my family was blindly accepting the narrative spun by Amanda and my parents. Some were willing to hear my perspective and recognize the legitimacy of my boundaries. As the deadline approached, Amanda and Jake finally began packing the reality of the situation, apparently sinking in at last. Their attitude remained resentful, but beneath the sullen expressions, I detected a hint of panic as they confronted the consequences of their actions for perhaps the first time in their relationship. On day 28, 2 days before the deadline, Amanda and Jake finally moved out. The process was as tense as expected, with minimal communication and cold efficiency. They had found a small apartment across town, signing a 6-month lease that Jake's parents had apparently helped secure with a co-signature. I took the day off work to supervise the move, ensuring nothing beyond their personal belongings left the house. My caution proved warranted when I caught Jake attempting to pack the expensive coffee maker I'd received as a gift from my hospital unit last Christmas. "That's not yours," I said, simply removing it from the box. "Whatever," he muttered. "It's not like you even use it that much." Ownership and usage frequency were apparently unrelated concepts in his mind. By late afternoon, their belongings were loaded into a rented moving truck and the borrowed pickup truck from Jake's cousin. Amanda did a final walkthrough of their former bedroom, her expression a mixture of anger and something that might have been regret. At the front door, she paused. "I hope you're happy now, spending Christmas alone while everyone else is in Hawaii." "I won't be alone," I replied calmly. "And I am happier now, thank you for asking." She shook her head in disgust and walked out without another word. Jake followed, not even bothering with a goodbye. As their vehicles pulled away from the curb, I closed the door and leaned against it, overwhelmed by a wave of emotions: relief, sadness, vindication, and most surprisingly, freedom. I walked through my house really seeing it for the first time in months. Without Amanda and Jake's constant presence and accumulated possessions, it felt spacious and peaceful. I opened windows to let in fresh air, reclaiming my space room by room. That evening, I did something I hadn't been able to do in over a year. I sprawled across my entire couch, watched a movie of my choosing at my preferred volume, and enjoyed ice cream straight from the container without worrying about anyone else finishing it before I had my share. Simple pleasures, but they felt revolutionary. Christmas approached quickly after that. My parents made one final attempt to resolve the situation before the holidays, calling with offers to postpone the Hawaii trip until we can all go as a family. Their sudden change of heart, coming only after I had stood my ground, felt hollow and manipulative. I declined politely but firmly. "I already have Christmas plans," I told them. "Enjoy Hawaii. We can talk after the new year when emotions aren't running so high." They left for their vacation with the situation unresolved disappointment evident in their voices during our last conversation. I felt a twinge of guilt for disrupting the family harmony they valued so highly, but recognized that the harmony had always come at my expense. Real reconciliation would require honest conversation and mutual respect, not just my continued accommodation of everyone else's needs and desires. As promised, I spent Christmas Eve with Jasmine's family, surrounded by warmth, laughter, and absolutely no expectations beyond enjoying the moment. Her parents welcomed me as if I were a longtime family friend, including me in their traditions without hesitation. Christmas Day brought a surprise invitation from cousin Sophie, who had returned early from a pre-Christmas visit with friends. We spent the day in comfortable companionship, cooking a small but delicious meal, watching classic holiday movies, and talking honestly about family dynamics and personal growth. Sophie's perspective as someone who had always felt slightly outside the family's inner circle resonated deeply with my own experiences. "The thing about family," she observed as we sipped hot chocolate that evening, "is that the roles we're assigned in childhood can become prisons in adulthood if we don't actively break out of them. You've always been the responsible one, the caretaker. Amanda's always been the one needing care. Until someone disrupts that pattern, it just perpetuates." "I never thought of it that way," I admitted. "But you're right. I've been playing my assigned role without questioning it." "And now you're rewriting the script," she said, raising her mug in a toast. "It's uncomfortable for everyone but necessary." Those holiday days without the usual family drama were healing in ways I hadn't anticipated. By the time January arrived bringing my parents back from Hawaii with suntans and unresolved questions, I felt centered and clear about my boundaries moving forward. Their first attempt at contact was tentative, a text from my mother asking if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, suggesting a cafe halfway between our homes. The conversation was awkward, but less confrontational than our previous interactions. "We had a lot of time to think in Hawaii," Mom said, turning her coffee cup in circles on the table. "And to talk with Amanda. There are different perspectives on what happened." "I imagine so," I replied neutrally. "We may have been too quick to accept Amanda's version of things." Dad acknowledged, surprising me with this admission. "And too dismissive of your concerns." It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering not just the recent conflict, but long-standing patterns in our family dynamics. I remained calm and firm about my boundaries while expressing genuine interest in rebuilding our relationship on healthier terms. "I love you both," I said as we prepared to leave. "That hasn't changed, but how we interact needs to change. I won't be taken for granted or treated as less important than Amanda anymore." They nodded clearly, still processing this new version of their eldest daughter who spoke her truth without apology. Amanda took longer to make contact. In late January, a text appeared on my phone. "Jake and I are settled in the new place. It's small, but okay. Hope you're doing well." Not an apology, but perhaps an olive branch of sorts. I responded with equal neutrality, acknowledging her message without reopening wounds. By spring, family dynamics had shifted into a new pattern. My parents and I spoke regularly, our conversations gradually becoming more authentic as they adjusted to my newfound assertiveness. Amanda and I maintained polite distance, exchanging brief texts and occasional phone calls, but without the assumed closeness of before. We attended a family dinner at our parents' house in April, our first time in the same room since the move. The tension was palpable, but manageable. Interestingly, Jake and Amanda appeared to be taking more responsibility for their lives. Both had found steady jobs, Jake at a local hardware store and Amanda as an administrative assistant. They complained about rent and bills like normal adults without the expectation that someone else would solve their problems. As for me, I rediscovered the joy of having my space truly my own. I converted the spare bedroom into a home office where I could study for the advanced nursing certification I'd been postponing. I joined a hiking group, making new friends who knew me as I was now, not as the perpetual caretaker I'd always been in my family. Most importantly, I learned that setting boundaries, while painful in the moment, created the possibility for healthier relationships in the long run. Standing up for myself hadn't destroyed my family. It had given us the opportunity to rebuild on a foundation of mutual respect rather than codependence and obligation. The Hawaii trip that had catalyzed this transformation became a reference point in my personal history. Not for the vacation I missed, but for the moment I reclaimed my self-worth and changed the course of my family relationships forever. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took your generosity for granted? I'd love to hear your stories and how you handled similar situations. Leave a comment below and let me know if you think I made the right decision or what you might have done differently. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about navigating complex family dynamics. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and others is to establish clear boundaries. Take care of yourselves.